Good morning, everyone. It is Tuesday, April 14th, and this is Red Sea Roundup. I am your host, Megan Silas. Thanks so much for tuning in today. Later in the show, Gerry Hince from RCIA, director from St. Mary's in College Station, will be joining me. She's going to talk about the process of becoming Catholic as an adult and give us some info on what happened at the Easter Vigil this year here at St. Mary's, and just talk about being a minister to college students who are looking to become Catholic. So I hope you'll stay tuned for that. We are live today, so as always, would love to hear your questions and comments. The phone number to call if you'd like to be on the air live is 85-LOVE-RED-C. That's 855-683-7332. Or if you'd like to text us something, the phone number is 979-255-2633. So, like I said, any questions or comments, or if you know of something that's going on around the community and you want to let everybody know about it, this is your opportunity. So, love to hear from you. Do have Dennis here. He's getting everything set up there.
Good morning, Megan. How's it going?
It is going very well. I know you warned me before we came on the air that you're a little raspy this morning and maybe you don't want to do too much talking.
'Tis the season.
Is it an allergy issue?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's the season. And I laughed at a cartoon I saw the other day. I don't know, it's Facebook or something. Up north, their weather is, look, Mom, it snowed overnight. And in the south, it's, look, Mom, it pollinated. And there's like 2 inches or 3 inches of yellow snow on the ground everywhere. So, on the cars. It
is pretty dramatic. I mean, I grew up in northern New York, near the border of Canada. And, we have 4 full seasons, but I don't remember it being quite as significant on the pollen front as it is here.
Yeah, it's
actually,
pretty
it tends to be late fall, actually, where I grew up is the one it gets bad, because there's this stuff called goldenrod, which grows in the fields, and it tends to come up later in the summer, which gives a lot of people problems, but not so much of the tree business. It seems like here it's trees are just like,
there's something about the Brazos Valley where the East Texas woods and the cedar from the hill country and the grassy everything kind of
sweeps down. It's like a whole airflow situation.
It's the allergy valley.
The allergy valley? All right. Yeah, I've heard people who never had allergies develop them here. And I have been blessed to not have any allergies during my life, which really is great because my father suffers from environmental allergies quite significantly. So I'm hoping that I don't develop them, but...
It's all good. It's all good.
It's worth it to live here in the Brazos Valley.
Cloudy day out here. We actually had sun when we were predicted to have rain all week, and we had sun yesterday. So the kids are like, "What?"
Yeah, yesterday was awesome. So I won't make you talk anymore then.
No, I'm okay. How was your weekend?
It's funny because before the show started, I was trying to think about that because you always ask me, and I was realizing I don't even I couldn't remember it for a second, but then I remembered how awesome one of the days was because my daughter's birthday was yesterday. My daughter Kate turned 11 yesterday, but we celebrated over the weekend, and so got the opportunity to go out with her and her little best friend and her best friend's mother, who happens to also be my best friend. So it works out really well that way. And we had a great time just going around town and doing girly stuff. And it was just a great opportunity to just, see my daughter and just happy and joyful and excited about celebrating her birthday. And it was fun. It was
Very
good.
nice. Very nice. We were great recipients of the nice weather. That was a surprise on Sunday. We took the family to their first ever Fightin' Texas Aggie baseball game. So,
fun!
I've only been here for a decade and a half, and but it's great.
And they're awesome this year, right? They're just killing it.
Yeah.
So
13-5, we actually got to see 2 Grand Slam home runs in one game. So
that's exciting.
Great family memories, and we just hadn't done that in a while, and it's great to get some recreation on a recreation Sunday. So. Good. It was nice.
Yeah, wonderful. Well, good. Yeah, I think it's fun to watch baseball. I've always loved this sort of pastime aspect of it, because it's a bit slower paced than a lot of other sports. So you really do, when you go, you feel like you really are spending time with the people that you're with a little more because it's not
Right.
quite as action packed. So you have a chance to chat and just
Right.
really enjoy each other's company. So
You also haven't seen an Aggie baseball game, though.
no, actually, I've seen several.
You've been to Aggie baseball,
Yes.
sat in the
I
student
have.
sections?
I have.
Okay,
yes.
so you know about
They're
the
pretty
rowdy-
vocal. Yeah, it's
great.
fun. Yeah, it's really fun.
We sat right on top of all the student section. It was just wonderful.
It is. It's cool. Yeah. So, well, best of luck to Aggie baseball.
Well,
I
of
hope they
course.
continue to dominate and maybe even see a College World Series out of them.
That would be nice.
That would be really exciting.
We have some great things coming up this week and even next week. I know you're going to talk about things around the community.
Yes, absolutely. Do you want to talk about next week before I go on?
Yeah, we've got our
this
third annual. It is our third annual.
It is
right?
third. Yeah, third.
Third annual Catholic Community Showcase. That's coming up on April 22nd, 23rd, and 24th. That's where we basically, for 8 hours straight, for 3 days in a row, showcase everything that's beautiful and Catholic in our community. So we're very excited to have all the parishes in their area to represent, and the many Catholic lay apostolate and lay movements that are out there are going to be representing as well. And so it's a packed 3-day experience. We're actually going on the road on Thursday out to Caldwell and then later to Franklin. So wonderful things to come. We've never been able to do that before. So
yeah, it's really exciting. In fact, if you actually go on Roundup's website page, you will see that this show was actually born out of the first Catholic Community Showcase that we did. That first year that we did it, it was just so wonderful to have all these different passionate, joyful Catholics coming in and out of the studio. And we were just like, wow, we just need to have something local.
We can't just
show.
do that once a year.
Right. Yeah,
so.
something that really could highlight that spirit and that service that's going on in the community throughout the year. So that's where the idea for this show came from. And so it's great that it continues. And, now this is our second year with this show and third year with the community showcase. And it's really exciting to see it just continue to grow. And we love being engaged in the community. And with our new, abilities to go mobile, we're able to do that more and more to really just be out there and be part of our Catholic community. So that's exciting.
Yeah, I've had people say they've never listened to so much radio at any one time they'll turn it on and listen to it all day because it's so great to find out what all is going on around our community, because there are quite a few wonderful fruits of the Holy Spirit going on around our Catholic community here in the Brazos Valley.
Right. It's just, it's really inspiring. And I think that it's a perfect time to have it between Easter and Pentecost, because I really look at Pentecost as a time, this time, to really pray for guidance from the Holy Spirit about how he wants to send us. Where does he want us to serve? And so listening to what's going on in the community will give maybe y'all some ideas about how the Lord wants you to serve. The Holy Spirit might just whisper in your ear while somebody's talking about this or that ministry and say, this is where I want you to go. Be my hands and feet. So
that's why we do it.
Yeah, so that's why we do it, and we're excited for it. So tune in next week, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday,
9 to 5.
9 to 5, wall to wall live programming with local, parishes, parishioners, apostolates, ministries, the whole 9 yards. Tune in.
Yep. What's going on in our community now?
All right. So tomorrow night, Wednesday, April 15th, you can join Father Ryan for a night of learning about Poland and World Youth Day 2016, which will be taking place in Poland, thus the connection. That'll take place at 7 p.m. at the PAC at St. Joseph's in Bryan. The meeting's open to all young adults. You don't have to be a parishioner at St. Joseph's. Anybody who's interested in learning more about what's going to happen with Youth Day 2016 is welcome to come. You can RSVP to the church office at 822-2721, so they'll have enough kielbasa to eat. So join them for sausage and education about what World Youth Day 2016 is going to be all about. This weekend, Stampede for Need, 5K run and walk. Become a friend of the poor on Saturday, April 18th in Central Park in College Station. The Stampede for Need 5K run and walk is organized by St. Mary's Advocates for Christ Today as a fun way to join the spirit of giving and show the poor in our community that we really care about them. All proceeds go directly to the St. Vincent de Paul Society of Bryan College Station, which provides emergency assistance with rent, utilities, medicines, transportation, food and clothing, and other sorts of things for the poor in our community. You can register starting at 8 a.m. The race starts at 9 a.m. Registration is $20 before the race. You need to do that online, or $25 on the day of the race. If you'd like more information or you'd like to pre-register online, you can go to aggiecatholic.org/stampede, the number 4, need, or you can even just head over to St. Mary's reception desk. You can also donate to support the cause online. Matching donation actually is going to be made up to $5,000. So even if you don't feel like putting in the physical exertion of the 5K run or walk, you can support the cause by donating your dollar. So the question is, did Darby convince Dennis to do this one?
Not yet.
Not yet. So that means it's not all hope is not lost that Dennis will be limping in here next week.
We may have schedule conflicts.
Oh, all right. Oh, well, okay. Well, you're hoping for schedule conflicts.
Yeah.
But I hope we get some folks out there.
I could still donate, though.
There you go. I hope you do. All right. So if you're looking forward to an opportunity to pray and grow with others, Encounter is a night of praise, worship, and adoration, which is open to the entire community. And that's going to take place on Saturday, April 18th. The event features music, a short talk, and the opportunity to pray with others. All are welcome, and it is a free event. The doors open at 6:30 p.m. at Christ the Good Shepherd Chapel in Bryan. If you'd like to learn more about Encounter, you can go to encounterbcs.org. I love these opportunities to bring parishes together to worship, to praise God, to pray. This is the stuff that just gets me excited. So I hope that there's a huge crowd for Encounter to just be together as a Catholic community in a really exciting, positive way and just worship our Lord together as one holy Catholic church. So hope you'll show up for that on Saturday. The Fourth Degree Knights of Columbus in Somerville, Caldwell, and Rockdale will have a turkey shoot on Sunday, April 19th at the Josiah Barrow Place starting at 12:30 p.m. Hamburger lunch will be available for sale starting at 11:30. So if you want more information, you can call 979-535-4929. Now, that is a unique event that we don't normally have something like that on the show. So that's cool if you're looking to shoot some turkey. If you don't want to shelf the Divine Mercy devotion, now that Divine Mercy Sunday is past, you can consider heading over to St. Thomas Aquinas every first and third Monday of the month for the Divine Mercy Cenacle. Each meeting includes a lesson, discussion about performing acts of mercy in daily life, and there's an opportunity to put forward prayer petitions. And of course, they will pray the Chaplet of Divine Mercy. So you can come and be part of a lovely spiritual family over there at St. Thomas Aquinas, where they are living out the Divine Mercy devotion. And finally, Elizabeth House Maternity Home in the Brazos Valley, only home for mothers in crisis pregnancy, is looking for volunteers to mentor and support the residents. There will be a mandatory training meeting for all volunteers on Saturday, April 25th at 10 a.m. in room 101 at the St. Mary's Student Center. Those interested in getting involved can check out the website, elizabethhousematernityhome.com, for more information. So that's about wraps up what's going on around this week. So I actually have 6 minutes to talk about what's going on around the Universal Church. So that's fun. That's more time than I usually have in this segment. So here we go. There's just a couple things I wanted to highlight here. This week, the Vatican has gathered a wide range of experts in the field of exorcism with the aim of shedding light on demonic possession from both theological and scientific perspectives. The annual course, Exorcism and Prayer of Liberation, is designed for priests and lay persons interested in learning how to recognize a case of demonic possession when they see one and what to do about it. This year's session, which runs this entire week at the Rome Regina Apostolorum University, will feature interventions by talks by a wide range of experts in the field of exorcisms, from priests, including practicing exorcists, medical professionals, psychologists, lawyers, and theologians. It's sponsored by the Vatican Congregation for the Clergy and organized by the Sacerdoce Institute. So one of the primary objectives for this course is to help priests and lay people distinguish a true demonic possession from a psychological or medical condition. So the reason I wanted to highlight this is because it's certainly something that Pope Francis has talked about more than we've heard in, sort of more recent past of Pope speaking about the fact of that the devil really does exist. He's more than merely a myth or a figure or an idea of evil, and that he's someone we need to fight against. He's said this a number of times in different homilies. And Catholic experts have actually noted that occult activity and the resulting need for exorcisms has reached a critical level. The International Association of Exorcists, which met for their 12th annual conference in Rome last October, their spokesman, Walter Cassioli, has noted that an increased number of bishops and cardinals have been asking to participate in the conference because they have seen an increase in what they see as demonic activity. And in fact, Cassioli reported that it's actually become a pastoral emergency, that they've seen the disturbances of demonic activity on the rise. And I think this is a really interesting thing for us as Catholics, because it's something that we do take seriously as a faith. It's not just something that is relegated to the dustbin of history where we say, oh, well, we just didn't really understand. It was this or that psychological disorder. And a lot of times, majority of times, things that appear really disturbed in a person's psyche is going to be a psychological illness. But there are times where it truly is a demonic possession. And I think that it is, for me, actually comforting that the church takes it seriously, wants to really look at it from a systematic standpoint, and give, our ministers tools in order to deal with that. It reminded me of a story of when I was, I remember very clearly being in elementary school one time and going over to a friend's house, and it was a Halloween party, and they decided to whip out the old Ouija board. And having grown up a Christian in a home that said, look, you know what, you just don't mess around with this stuff. I was very uncomfortable and decided to remove myself from the room. And I just, I think that it's so easy in this culture where we've got vampires and zombies and everything on every TV show practically, that we sort of trivialize it and make it seem like it's just fun. This isn't fun stuff. This is scary stuff. And our church takes it seriously, and we need to take it seriously in our lives too, and not mess around with that business. So pray for those priests who are on the front lines of spiritual warfare, and pray for any of those who you think may be significantly impacted by this. All right. So last thing I wanted to talk about in this segment was, this is actually a little bit of a personal commentary, but I just felt called to talk about it. So recently, we've had some announcements of some politicians that are going to be running for president. So basically, with these announcements, these official announcements, you see that the 2016 presidential race is basically begun. Here it goes. The whole spectacle of it all. And if you're anything like me, you probably wish you could just ignore the whole thing, because it's so frustrating at times. And I know that prior to my conversion, actually, I was really into politics, and I loved the whole horse race aspect of it. I thought it was fun. I thought it was intriguing. I just loved the strategy and all that. But since my conversion and just coming back to Christ, I find it's a lot of times it's painful to watch. It's like you see this sort of parade of sinfulness and misplaced priorities in the political system, and it's so easy to just get discouraged and just want to totally withdraw from the whole thing. This idea, which seems so idealistic and naive at this point, of a politician being a civil servant, a servant of the people, it seems almost laughable at this point. But I just recently really feel convicted that we as Christians need to fight this impulse to disengage in what's happening politically. We see the trajectory that our nation is on right now, and it's a trajectory that is pretty frightening. And I think if we're silent now, we're headed down a path where in the future we'll be silent, not because we've chosen to be, but because we've forced to be. And really, that's not what we want, certainly. And I think it's our responsibility as Christians to be that voice crying out in the wilderness. And if we don't speak for what's good and true, who will? So I've decided to commit myself this time around, presidential election, all that business, to not withdraw, to be engaged with love and charity. And I hope that y'all will join me with that. So the Holy Spirit will give us the strength, but we need to give him a willing heart. So time to go to a break. We'll be back with Gerry Hince in just a few minutes, so stay tuned.
Stay tuned to see if Megan finds out what a real turkey shoot is.
Oh, maybe you're not shooting turkeys. Hello and welcome back. This is Red Sea Roundup. I'm your host, Megan Silas, and we are back from break, and there has been a tragedy in the studio. My large iced tea has spilled on the floor.
It wasn't mine this time.
Yeah, and it's not so much a problem of the fact that there's spillage on the carpet here, which is really not a very nice carpet, so I'm not too concerned about that, but I really love my iced tea, and it is a sad moment indeed.
Get over it.
All right. So we have with us a guest who clearly is not very compassionate about the loss of my iced tea, but welcome, Gerry. Gerry Hince is the RCIA director here at St. Mary's Catholic Center, and it's a pleasure to have you here. Except for
my lack of compassion.
Yeah, except for that. But it really isn't that big a deal. But let me tell you. Okay, so during Lent, I one of the things that was something I gave up was I limited myself to 1 glass of tea a day, and it had to be at my home. I couldn't get anything out. And that doesn't sound like that hard for most people, but for me, it actually was a pretty significant.
Yeah, I'm married to an iced tea person, so I understand completely.
Well,
yes.
I just read an article online about a man who drank so much iced tea that he actually found himself in the hospital close to death because he had kidney failure because he had so many oxalate crystals in his kidneys. And so that kind of scared me a little bit. So maybe this is the Lord telling me, come on, maybe not so much iced tea. But anyway. Okay. All right. So we are here, and I wanted to have you here, this in the Easter season here because you are very involved in the RCIA process, of course, at St. Mary's. And during the month of March leading up to Easter, I had a couple folks on the show who were converts. So I wanted to hear their stories, but I also wanted to have you on to just talk more generally about the RCIA process and also more specifically about how the process goes when you're involved with college students, because it seems to me quite a unique situation where you have kids who maybe are away from home for the first time in their lives even, and maybe are feeling called to become Catholic if they didn't come from Catholic families, and there seems like there'd be some pretty unique challenges there. But before we get into those details about that stuff, I want you to just give a little bit of background about yourself to our listeners. Tell us a little bit about your faith life growing up and how you came to be at St. Mary's and involved in RCIA.
Oh, thank you. And by the way, people obviously are listening to the radio because somebody just came in and cleaned up this mess that she made. And I say she made it. Dennis and I had nothing to do with it.
This is true. This is true.
But your readership or your listenership is really helping out. I grew up in New York City, so I am not a Texan by birth, but I am a Texan by choice, which is kind of neat.
I agree I am also one of those.
And God bless them, they keep taking us, and that's good. Bottom line is I'm a cradle Catholic. Mom and Dad were both raised Catholic. Dad, Jesuit trained, so his Catholicism was totally different, typical Jesuit, and it was wonderful. But it's interesting in that my grandpa, who I was very, very close to, Pa Henny, was a convert. And I didn't find out about that until I was 14 when we went to a family reunion. And his whole side of the family went to Lutheran service, and we went to Catholic Mass. And I said, what happened? And he said, well, I loved your grandma. And he said, back in those days, if you wanted to have a Catholic wedding in the church, you had to be both Catholic. And he said she was the last of 5 girls, and the other 4 had beautiful weddings. And she wanted the same. And so I said, okay, I'll become Catholic. Well, that's not exactly the way RCA works. I mean, that's not a good reason for becoming a Catholic, to love my grandma, but it worked. And he was part of the reason why I was such a strong Catholic, because his faith was so strong in the Catholic Church. But RCA has changed from Pa Henny. In other words, we do things completely differently. And we do things wonderfully and differently here at St. Mary's. We do have a phenomenal opportunity to excel here as far as Catholicism goes. We have wonderful examples. But we also have challenges because we have college kids. And I think God has blessed us because we have, just in my program alone, we have 39 folks that come every week. Those are permanent parishioners and former students, former RCA students who come back and they're team members. 39 members who do nothing but support.
That is a great team. But before we get, I still want to stay on you for a little bit, all right? So you grew up in the faith.
Grew up in the faith.
Did you ever have any periods of time where you kind of, fell away a little bit or stopped practicing? Or were you...
Nope. I'm one of those people that I can look at you and I look to my students and say, I have never not believed.
Now,
or
do you find that you are a bit of an anomaly in the RCIA world then? Because it is my impression, and correct me if I'm wrong, that within the folks who tend to be greatly engaged in RCIA, they've either been converts themselves or have had sort of a reversion experience that sort of enkindled this desire in them to help others along this process of conversion.
I think you're right on. In other words, I do think I'm different. And my kids will agree with you on that one. But
probably in more ways than just that, right?
More ways than just that. But I have been blessed. And it's interesting. I had a kid in yesterday and we were talking about that very thing. And I said, I haven't had a perfect life. Been married 42 years to a wonderful guy. Lost a son through suicide, which was tough. And if I was going to lose my faith, that would have been the time I lost my faith. But I had that faith I have that faith, thank you, God, that he's there. No matter what happens, it's the one constant in my life. And so I have been blessed, and I'm able to share that with the kids. But I'm also able to be aware of the fact that I am unusual. My faith is unusual. Not everybody can say, I have never doubted.
Right. Well, I think it's, for me, listening to you, it's an encouragement to Catholics who maybe they've gone to an Easter Vigil once or twice and thought, wow, this is amazing, but never thought that they had any place in the RCIA process because, well, I'm not a convert, I'm not a revert, but there is a place for those faithful Catholics who have been there the whole time.
I had never been to one until I came to RCIA.
Oh, really?
Here at St. Mary's. And the first one I went to, I was like, you've got to be kidding me, 4 hours when they told me it was 4 hours. Now I wouldn't miss it.
Right.
Okay? But it's one of those, the way you grow up kind of depends. In other words, we went to Easter morning mass. That was our family tradition. And my sisters and brothers now laugh at me when I say, no, I go to the Easter Vigil mass. And they're like, are you kidding me? That's a long one. Yeah, it is. And St. Mary's, it's really long because we have so many people. Thank you, God. But yeah, my faith life has been very, very different. One of 4 children, 2 of us are practicing Catholics. One is a practicing Muslim and one is a practicing Methodist. And I'm sure Mom and Dad are in heaven looking down and just shaking their heads. But you know what? We're all practicing something, which is good.
Right. Which means you haven't perfected it yet.
No,
so there's always room for change.
Always room for change, always room for improvement. And God and the Holy Spirit works.
So did you, growing up or through, I know you weren't always in ministry. There's other things you've done in your life, right? Did you see yourself potentially involved?
Oh, no. I spent 31 years in the Army, which is part of ministry, I guess. And I think that's when God started telling me that's probably what I needed to do, because when I was at Fort Gillem, Georgia, John and I were youth ministers. And then we moved to Fort Belvoir, Maryland, Virginia. And I continued being a youth minister. And then I had a chance to get a master's degree through LIMEX, which is the Loyola program online and in person. And the Army paid for it. So I think that was the Army and God saying, Gerry, you probably need to use campus ministry or do something in ministry.
Right.
So after 31 years retirement-wise, I ran an ice rink for a couple years. And then we moved down here, went to Mass. It was Father David's first Mass back as pastor. And I had known him over the years because our boys went here. And I'd used him several times for speaking engagements. And we went to Mass, and coming out of Mass, he turned to John and I said, okay, I'll see you tomorrow for lunch. I got something in mind. So we go to lunch, and he said to me, whoever calls you first, RCA or confirmation, there's 2 women that do it. Do it. I said, okay. Well, now I have both. Thank you. And then he said to John, I have something special for you. Well, John was on the cemetery committee. So it's kind of a joke in the family.
Right.
I got the live people. He got the bios. But that's okay. It worked. It worked real well. But, yeah, I have found a place in ministry, and it works.
During your time in the Army, I mean, what was your job in the Army?
Started out personnel. Actually, no, started out public affairs. Had my undergraduate in communications journalism, and did public affairs for a long time, and then personnel, and then logistics, and then ballistic missiles. Mm-hmm. And then I was an IG, an inspector general, so I was an investigator. I was not well liked, just because that's what IGs do, but I loved it. And like I said, I was very blessed to have many wonderful people working with me and for me. And
right. So now we see why it's really not so big of a surprise that she told me to suck it up for, when I dropped my tea. But that's okay.
That's what friends are for.
Yeah, there you go. I think honestly, I have recently been telling people that we need a little more of that in our society. It's we've gotten to the point where everybody's like, I want it to be exactly the way I want everything to be, and you can't criticize anything that I have to say or do or anything. And we just need a little bit more of suck it up. It's not everything's not going to go your way all the time.
Get over it.
But anyway, all right. Well, let's move on and talk more specifically about RCIA. For people who aren't familiar with even the acronym, RCIA, Rite of Christian Initiation of Adults.
Correct. And
it is the normal process from which someone who is an adult and decides they want to become Catholic comes into the Catholic Church. Can you give a little bit of an overview of what that process looks like?
It varies from parish to parish, just because of individuals, I think, and timing. All right. We also have RCIC. We don't here at St. Mary's because we don't have a children's ministry. But it's a process by which not only do we welcome people into the church, but we offer an opportunity to learn about the church. So it's also an education course. So when people come to me and say, I just want to find, I don't want to be Catholic.
Right.
Okay.
God forbid.
Yeah, but I want to find out about it.
Right.
So it is an education course, and that's how we approach it.
Right. I would imagine some people even come into it thinking, well, I want to hear about what they believe so that I can refute it and make them Protestants.
Exactly. And one of the things that we do in our program is we require a faith chat with me, which, they're like, well, I talk to my team leader all the time. Doesn't that count? No, it really doesn't. You have to talk to me. I'm sorry. And I guess I'm intimidating, all 5 foot of me. But some of them do come in and say, Gerry, I came in here for the purpose of getting the facts so I could then argue the facts with my roommate or my friend.
Right.
Or, and it's a case of, okay, did you? Well, no. For the most part, they say, no, I want to be Catholic now because I see how you are the original.
Right.
You're the real thing. But it's just a good opportunity for folks to learn more about their own religion, but also to learn about our religion that in turn could become their religion.
Right.
And things have changed, thank you, in the last 30 years. And it's a wonderful program. Thank you, Dennis. Okay.
Dennis is making little adjustments.
It's a wonderful program for folks who just want to keep learning their faith.
Right. And I think one of the things that struck me about RCIA when I was going through it is there's no sense, at least in the experience that I had, that any question is off limits, that there is any shutting down of conversation if conversation needs to be had about any topic. And there's a certain, what I see as just confidence, like in the sense that anything that comes forward, we are not afraid of what we believe. We're not worried that we're not going to have a reason behind it. That question is nothing new. Like that question's been asked. It probably was asked about 1600, 1700 years ago or more, and it's been covered. And so there's just like this sense of just openness to bring it, whatever you want, whatever you need to have resolved, whatever question you need answered. This is the place. And
it's an open book.
Yeah.
Really, that's part of what I like is the fact that it's an open book. And it depends on the year. Some years we have had a question box where kids come in, and I say kids, students will come in and put questions in the box, and we'll go through them that way. But in the last 2 years, we haven't had the question box because our team has been so confident that just raise your
Right.
hand. It's
Yeah.
okay. There's absolutely no stigma if you ask questions. And it really works well here at St. Mary's.
Right.
Because I think a lot of it, we're an education environment, if you will. Now, having said that, I will also tell you that every class we also have a lot of non-students. Not a lot, but maybe 10 out of the 50 will be non-students, permanent parishioners, folks who have come back here to work, folks who went to Blinn or are in
Right.
Blinn, because it is a Blinn St. Mary's, Blinn A&M project, excuse me. And it really changes. But the questioning is one of the greatest things. Is you're right, there is no, and sometimes questions have come up, and I've had to say, I have no idea, but give me a week,
Right.
and then I'll look it up, or I'll go to one of the priests and say, can you come back, or can you want to address this? And again, we are so blessed here to have priests and sisters who are just phenomenally open with our faith, and that's one of the strong points we have in our program is. Father David, and before him, every priest we've ever had has always taught the program. Father Charlie teaches the program. He's our oblate who comes from San Antonio. Father Ryan from St. Joseph's comes because then we in turn go up and teach one of his. And then our sisters. And then every one of our folks who teaches has a master's in theology. I don't think every RCIA program can say that.
That is a pretty deep bench you got there.
Yeah, thank you. And again, it's one of those, thank you, God.
Right.
It has nothing to do with Gerry Hince. We just happen to have a community in this town that is very education-oriented, and that includes your religion.
Right. Well, in case you didn't just hear, we are here with Gerry Hince, and she is the RCIA director at St. Mary's here in College Station, and we're talking about the RCIA process. Now, there are some stages of the process, even though the flavor of what RCIA is going to be different depending on the parish. There are sort of these distinct stages. Can you name those and tell them? You don't want to name them?
I don't want to name because I get confused. That makes
All
me
right.
look
Well,
stupid.
it basically, my understanding, there's the process where you're just inquiring.
Right.
So you're like, it's all about the questions. There's no.
It's the beginning period.
Yeah.
I call them the beginners.
Right.
Okay, but it's where they come in and we actually welcome them. Okay, and it winds up being in our program. It goes 3 weeks into the program, and we have a rite of welcoming. And during that stage, their senses are all blessed. And Father Michael Sullivan, who's one of our visiting legionnaires, does a phenomenal rite of election. He takes great pride in taking the oils and blessing. And from then on, once they get the 3 or 4 weeks, and as far as we're welcoming you, and then it goes stage-wise into we learn more about it. We then teach you this. We then teach you creation. We then teach you incarnation. We teach you about Mary. And then, of course, the second portion is total sacramental.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. So it really does lead you deeper into what the church is and who the church is, and starting right from the beginning
Right,
of
from the
who's
beginning.
God.
Who is God?
And then going deeper, and then finally into what those sacraments.
And in our program, Megan, it's interesting because we will have, just this year alone, we wound up baptizing 15.
Wow.
So those are 15 people for the most part who have had no catechesis, none.
Right.
All right. Well, in our program, we put them right into the bucket. In other words, our discussion groups are mixed groups. We don't say all you newbies are in here.
Right. Right.
We mix them. So we have old Catholics in the group. We have non-confirmed Catholics in the group. We have Baptists and Methodists, Christians who have been baptized, who are coming in fully into the Catholic, or are thinking about coming into the Catholic Church.
Right.
And then we have these newbies who just off the street almost,
Sure.
like just all of a sudden want to find God.
Yeah.
Okay. And stage-wise, it's one of those, you can see them grow. Okay. And what we do is we stick strictly to rites. In other words, we have the rite of welcoming, and then second semester we do have the rite of election with the bishop, which is an absolutely beautiful
Right.
ceremony.
It is. Yeah.
And it's one of those. It's kind of like when you get your degree from college, or when you get your engagement ring, and then you get married. There are stages, and it's very, very distinct as far as they know where
Right.
they stand.
Yeah.
And we do the old-fashioned gowns for baptism. And this Sunday we'll have the confirmation, which is a separate sacrament. But because we do ours all at one time, it again is a beautiful big number, et cetera.
Right. Well, and I think this aspect of having the rites along the way it's a beautiful expression of how there's this physical component to our faith, like especially when you're coming in as a Protestant, which is what I did. you do get caught up a little bit in just that faith is all spiritual, and like that it's almost like a sort of a Gnostic thing that where you're like, well, the flesh is bad and the spirit is good and all that. But the church, obviously we, believe that we are one being, which is both spirit and body, and that the church uses our physical senses to draw us into the mystery of God. Exactly. And you see that, and that's like a real eye-opening thing when you're going through RCIA, where we're being anointed, hands are being laid on, and there are like minor exorcisms going on here, and it's a beautiful, rich, like deep process, and it's a mystery in the beautiful sense of the word, not in the confusing, scary sense of the word.
And it's also very, very meaningful, because in today's world we don't have a lot of that. We really don't have a lot of that, where there's meaning to it.
Right. It's funny, but thinking about your military background, I've always felt like for folks who are ordered in that sort of military mindset, the church, the Catholic Church is the place to be, because the ritual and the ceremony, it's not just a meaningless action. It has deep meaning that is rooted in something much bigger, which I think a lot of tradition and ceremony in military also has. Well, and the hierarchy and the...
I have said this from the beginning. In other words, I don't understand, in addition to being military, I don't understand any Aggie who is not Catholic. Because Aggie values and the way Aggies think is very, very, as you said, decompartmentalized. But anyway, it's very hands-on. It's very, where is it going to? Where's it?
Right. Yeah. So let's talk about some of these Aggies, because I have just always been fascinated by the idea of a student who comes to college, maybe was raised in a certain faith or not raised in a faith at all, and through whatever experiences they have at college decides, I'm converting to Catholicism. I'm going to join this church. And I just feel like there must be some real challenges that come from that, because you are in a new environment, and there's a lot of new and exciting and stuff. And I would imagine that maybe parents might have a difficult time with these sort of things. Do you deal with that with students who, they've come to this sense that I need to be Catholic, and their parents are like, what is going on?
Exactly. Oh, absolutely. And yet, for every parent that's like that, we have parents who are so supportive. Easter Sunday, we had no less than, we baptized 15, and of the 15, I think 13 had their families here. It's the highest I've ever
Beautiful.
had. But I will share a story with you. I had a young man a couple of years ago come in, and from the get-go, he knew he wanted to be Catholic. I mean, he was quoting Aquinas to me. I mean, just one of those phenomenally academic freshmen. I think he finished here in 3 years. But I said, have you said anything to your parents? Brought up Baptist. No, ma'am, I haven't. I said, okay, when are you going to say something to them? Because I said, it's obvious to me after our second meeting, you've made up your mind. And he said, maybe Christmas. Okay, so he came back, and I said, yeah, I said something to them. And he said, oh, they were not happy. Not happy, not happy, not happy. So I said, okay, so when are you going to follow up? And he said, oh, every time I go home, I'm taking something else, because Dad wants to read Aquinas now, and he wants to. Okay, so it comes Easter time, and he's being baptized. He's being full communioned. And parents did not come. My heart broke. It was just like, oh, they could have come. They could have come. So I said, what are you going to do? He said, I'm going home. Going to Easter service with them tomorrow, because that's what we do. I'm okay. I'm okay. All right. So Monday morning, he comes back with a big grin. I said, what happened? He said, we went to service. It was beautiful. Sunrise was beautiful. And after service, my mother said, okay, Bible study. And he said, Mom, we don't do Bible study Easter Sunday. She said, no, things have changed. We're doing Bible study today. And they went up to the Bible study, and the Bible study group, which were his parents' peers, so we're talking in their 40s, had a big cake. Congratulations, and God bless you. For him.
Beautiful.
Don't tell me the Holy Spirit is working.
Right.
And to this day, the young man's now in seminary, by the way. But to this day, the parents are still not Catholic. But you know what? I think they will be. Yeah. But more importantly, there was that support.
Sure.
And I think that's one of the things that our program is able to offer these kids is how to approach your parents how not to approach your parents,
Right.
how to give your parents room to understand your journey, because it's your journey, but they're also a part of the journey. And the stories just go on and on. The other is roommates. Roommates at A&M have influenced so many young folks to come in. And it's just a case of they bring them to church, then they bring them to church again, then they take them to Aggie Awakening. And it's amazing.
Yeah. Well, it is interesting because, I mean, St. Mary's has this reputation of being a very vibrant Catholic community. I mean, as far as what I've been told, the largest Catholic student organization of any college in the nation, including Catholic colleges. And so I would imagine that there's something really compelling about this witness of these Catholic students who just are into being Catholic, love their faith, are not ashamed to talk about it, and are willing to invite. And this is something I think that we folks who maybe are a little more on in years and living.
She's looking at you, Dennis. I don't want to say anything.
Well, all of us in this room, we're not in college anymore, any of us. And we, we're off in our parish life and things like that. And it's easy to just sort of compartmentalize it, to live it. I go to this parish and I'm friends with people at this parish, and I don't really have that sense of, well, I'm going to try to bring others in. People who I know and who are other in my life and other realms, invite them, be joyful in my faith. And I think we can learn a lot from these college students who aren't afraid to be out there and be loud and proud and Catholic.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. In other words, one of the things that we do towards the last class, as a matter of fact, Marcel comes in, and Marcel is probably one of the best speakers on evangelization. I mean, he gets you fired up. Okay, and that's exactly what he tells them is, now you have no excuse. Now you know what Catholicism is. Now you know what it can do. Now let's do it.
Right.
Okay, and students do, and old people do. In other words, folks who are in there because, we've been married for 40 years. My wife has finally convinced me. No, I finally convinced myself I want to be Catholic.
Right.
And I have one of those right now. He can't wait until November when he comes into the church, and he's off the wall with excitement.
Right.
That's contagious.
Yeah,
that is contagious.
Sure. Yeah, I think joy is the best evangelical tool that there is, just that joy. But I do want to talk about specifically, I think for me coming into the church, the biggest thing, the thing that made it no choice. I have to become Catholic. I don't care who's upset about it. It has to be, was the Eucharist. Can you talk a little bit about seeing folks come into RCIA and they might not believe in Christ's real presence in the Eucharist, or didn't even know we believed it, or don't have any sense of it, and to see that transformation of them saying, "Wow, my Lord and my God, He's here," and that, because for me, when I was in RCIA, coming to that realization then became that now there's this longing that you have to wait. I'm waiting. Every Mass, it was like, oh, I can't wait. And I know that you've probably seen some beautiful sort of conversions of heart on that.
I was going to say, first of all, when it comes to First Communion, I'm in the first row just because I have to be part of that ceremony at the beginning, so I get to see every one of them. And you're right. It's like, oh my gosh, look at that smile. Look at those tears, because they're not tears of unhappiness, they're tears of joy. And you're right, you can see it when that class is taught, okay? And we made a decision 3 years ago now, at the recommendation of a team member, to ask the priest to teach that class, to teach the Eucharist, because up until that time, we kind of, one of us with a theology degree or one of the sisters taught it, just because we were down to the one priest. And so we went and asked the priest to please teach the class. And it makes such a difference, because I can remember Father Chris, when he taught it, would talk about what a gift it was to be able to take that bread and to take that wine and repeating the words of Jesus.
Right.
And the kid watching the students, when a priest is teaching that, the amazement, the awe, and the wonder, it's like, okay, there it is. There is the secret to Catholicism. That idea that we get Jesus whenever we want to.
Right.
And it's amazing to me, once they get First Communion, it's like, I can't, why don't people go to Mass every day? Are you kidding me? If you have a chance, why don't you go to Mass every day? Yeah. I got it. I get it. Mm-hmm. Okay. And the same thing with reconciliation. The idea of going into confession and hearing God say, I love you, I forgive you. And it's always there.
Right.
That amazement, how lucky are we Catholics? I mean, how blessed are we?
Absolutely.
And we just don't take advantage of it.
Yeah, it's interesting because when I was coming in, and I used to, prior to ever considering becoming Catholic, I used to think about Catholics as being very superstitious. Like there's a miracle around every corner, like they're seeing Mary in toast and it all. It's just like, what's up with that? All this business. And then when I came to understand and believe in the Eucharist, it totally opened my mind because I realized
this makes sense.
This makes sense. You know why? Because a miracle happens every time a Mass is celebrated. And when you're in the presence of a miracle and you're receiving that miracle, it opens your eyes to the other miraculous things that are happening all around us. I mean, Catholics are infused with miraculous events because they find their source in the ultimate miraculous event. And it's an amazing thing. It really is.
Now, if we could just bottle what you just said, give it to everybody. But yeah, it's absolutely, and I think that's one of the things about a good RCIA program is they leave the program with that kind of an added mindset. Mm-hmm. More importantly, they leave it with that kind of a heart set.
Right.
And I think that's one of the reasons why when we go back, because I do go back, and send at the end of the school year, everybody who's come into the RCIA program the last 4 years will get something from us saying, how's everything going? And the answer is great.
Right.
And it's because they've been able to take that whole idea of the Eucharist is the center, mm-hmm. Jesus is the center, and take it from there. And I think that was one of the beauties of Jesus is Lord program recently, is that also was stressed and was brought out, and we were able to see the beauty of Jesus being in our lives.
Right. And also, I mean, I think that, we talked about with these things, with these sacraments, how blessed we are as Catholics, right? But coming into the church, the day that before of the Easter Vigil, I thought, wow, this is a big responsibility. I'm being given such a blessing, such a huge gift, and this carries with it some weight. To whom mm-hmm. much is given, much is required, right? And so I know that these kids who go through and have this awakening of their heart to Christ being present in the Eucharist and what His Holy Church is, and that they want to go forward then and share that love and that joy with others. So I'm sure that all those folks that are graduates, shall we say, graduates, quote unquote, because really it's the beginning, right? Not the end. They impact this community in a huge way.
Oh, absolutely. Sure. That's one of the reasons why I have such a big team is, like tonight, I'll go back to the kids who are leaving me and say, okay, if you want to be part of this team, please let me know. And I already have 4 kids that have said, I want in. Right. I want it. Yeah. I want it. I want to be able to get somebody else in. I want to share what I've got.
Right.
And across the board at St. Mary's, you look, the other day we were at Mass, and I said to my husband, I said, 4 of the 6 kids on the altar, RCIA products.
Beautiful.
Yes, I'm not too proud.
Right. Well, you have every right to be proud, and I want to thank you for being here, Gerry. We're pretty much at the end of our time, but we've got about 45 seconds left. Do you have any last word you want to leave folks with?
Pray for us.
All right.
And we'll pray for you.
All right. That's great. We will pray for you. And I just want to thank you so much for your service to the church and to this community and to these students who I know are just really being blessed. And this is something that's going to take the rest of their lives in a whole different direction, and you have a big role in that. So
God blesses us all.
So thank God for using you that way. So I want to thank all of you for listening today. Hope you've been blessed by listening to what Gerry has to say, and maybe motivated to maybe get involved in the RCIA program at your parish. So Otherwise, I want to encourage y'all to tune in next week. I will not be in the host chair next week. Pam Marvin will be hosting. Her guest will be Peter Minke, and he will be talking about health and wellness. So something that this spring, as we move into summer, certainly we're all should be interested in. So I hope you'll tune in next week for that. And then until then, when choosing between the values of heaven and the world, always round up. God bless.